We're going to start in Maple Ridge as police continue to investigate a neighborhood dispute that has left 3 people dead. Here's what we know so far. When officers arrived, they say they found 2 vehicles and the attached garage on fire and 2 people dead inside their home. IHIT says a couple in their 60s and their dog were shot dead. Mounties say the suspect was believed to be armed in a neighboring home, but died of what appeared to be a self-inflicted injury. Leading up to this, police say officers were first called to this area near 118A Avenue and 239th Street. Police say at that time no one was arrested. But hours later, Mounties received calls about gunshots. And here's what neighbors told CBC News today.
I was really scared. We didn't sleep at all. We didn't, the whole night. And then our neighbor was keeping us updated because we're really close to this neighbor too.
It's a tough situation. I mean, the neighbors are we're all fairly close in this street, especially, and some of the other neighbors. So we've been supporting each other.
The police watchdog is investigating the actions of police in this, and IHIT continues to look into the deaths. We are also working to get more details on this. And goosebumps and euphoria. Those are the words being used by safety officials to describe the successful rescue of 3 trapped mine workers at Red Chris Mine. They spent 2.5 days deep underground after 2 separate cave-ins blocked their exit. The drillers were brought to the surface around 10:40 last night. The men had been sheltering in a steel refuge chamber with access to food, water, and air. That was 284 meters below the surface. So specialized equipment was used to clear the tunnel after 2 ground collapses. Mine operator Newmont says the men were in good health and spirits.
What the response has shown is that safety protocols work. Incredible that Kevin, Darren and Jesse did exactly what they were trained to do, and because of that they stayed safe for more than 60 hours until we could bring them to surface and home.
So vehicles that were equipped with reinforced protection rescued those miners, and they're from BC, Manitoba, and Ontario. Newmont says they'll be doing an extensive investigation into this incident to make sure that other areas of the mine aren't compromised. Okay, and as people make a splash this summer, officials in the District of North Vancouver are reminding you about the dangers of cliff jumping. They have launched a new campaign in Lynn Canyon Park with these new signs. They're all about informing younger people about the dangers of cliff jumping. Officials say that park has seen 40 deaths from cliff jumping in the last 50 years. Those drops can be high as 10 meters or even more, and the new signs are in addition to ones that are already in place, showing the statistics and injuries and deaths. The BC Wildfire Service says July has been unusually cool and wet for wildfire activity. So overall, as you can see on this map, there are about 68 active fires in the province. Most of them are in the northeastern part of BC. When it comes to weather, that cool pattern will continue into the coming weekend. As Environment Canada says, most of the province will be overcast and the interior may see showers and thunderstorms. But it says typical hot and dry summer conditions will return to the province on Monday. And you are updated this afternoon. I'm Vinny Brach. Stay with us. BC Today is coming up next.
Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. Well, it was a big moment of relief. 3 workers have been rescued after being trapped underground in a mine for more than 2 days. This was near East Lake. We'll hear from a reporter near the site, and we'll talk about what went into the rescue and if there are any lessons to be learned. Plus, it is barbecue season, and we would love to hear what you're putting on your barbecue this summer. What are your burning questions for our guest? Barbecue master Rusty Johnson will be here. We'll give away another BC Today prize pack as well to one lucky caller. That's after 12:30. I'm Michelle Elliott. Welcome to BC Today. There are sighs of relief at the Red Chris mine in northern BC and across the province today. The 3 miners who had been trapped underground for more than 60 hours were rescued late last night, and they are now being reunited with their families. The CBC's Liam Britten has been reporting from the mine location, and he joins me now from there. Hi, Liam.
Hey, Michelle, how are you doing?
Very well, and glad to hear that the miners have been rescued. What do we know about how they're doing?
Well, all seems to be good from what we can tell. This has to be pretty much the best outcome anyone could have hoped for. According to the company, there were no injuries. They're in good health, good spirits. And they've been checked out by wellness and medical teams. Obviously, for these workers and their families, this must be such a day of elation. But rescuers also, spoke of nerves as well. So they too are likely breathing easy. We've heard in the last couple of days quite a bit from Bernard Wessels, who's the head of safety at Newmont, which runs the mine. Here's a bit of what he had to say today.
Their arrival to surface at approximately 10:40 was a moment of relief and resolve for everyone involved. They are immediately supported by medical and wellness teams as we pre-planned. What the response has shown is that safety protocols work. Incredible that Kevin, Darren and Jesse did exactly what they were trained to do, and because of that they stayed safe for more than 60 hours until we could bring them to surface and home.
Now, these workers are technically called drillers, and they're subcontractors for Newmont. They work for a company called High Tech Drilling, and according to High Tech, they're not giving interviews at this time, but they have left the mine site and they are reunited with their families.
And the technical details of this rescue, can you tell us more about it?
Yeah, well, again, we haven't been able to speak to the rescuers themselves, but we've learned quite a bit about the technology they use, specialized remote control scooping machines, long-range drones to look into ground stability, and a special fall protection vehicle that carry the drillers one by one to safety. And the process generally seemed to be a very cautious one. Wessels has spoken a couple of times about not wanting to rush things, not endangering other workers during this process. And it sounds like part of the reason they didn't need to rush was that these workers were in this refuge chamber, kind of that bunker contraption that is stocked with food and water and has the ability to generate air. And that could last them for several weeks even, and that allowed the rescuers to kind of take their time to get these workers up to safety.
It's interesting the other day when we learned about these 3 workers who were trapped underground. We spoke on this show with someone from the union who represents workers at Red Chris Mine, although these 3 contract workers, the drillers, were not union members of this local. But when I asked him what resources would you want to call for to ensure that are available for these people who were trapped and the rescuers as well, who were members of this union, and he said counseling, want to ensure that there is counseling and psychological help for this ordeal. And that really struck me to think about that is the kind of support that they would need as well. What do we know about their ordeal underground?
Well, we don't know really the mindset of them at this time. We haven't been able to interview them or speak to their families directly, their families who've spoken to them and then they relay it to us. But yes, that's something that Wessels spoke about as well. He mentioned that there would be some sort of counseling provided, mental health would be a focus. But he also interestingly said that apparently these miners, or sorry, these drillers were still able to at least keep a bit of a sense of humor, it sounds like. Apparently one of them joked that he was finally able to catch up on his sleep while he was in there for 60 hours and had a good night's rest. And I don't know about you, Michelle, but I don't know if sleep would really be on my mind doing something like that.
Yeah.
And just a short time ago, we have spoken to the family of one of the miners. We spoke to the drillers, the grandmother of one. Her name's Helen Chubadi. She's in Winnipeg, and she didn't grant an interview, but she did say this was just a terrible experience, waiting 60 hours to find out what happened to her grandson. She described it as feeling like an eternity, and she says she just wants to see her grandson again.
I'm sure. Yeah. And now that they are safe, what about the mine itself? What comes next for the mine and their operations?
Well, now that the workers are out and they're safe, now the investigations begin about what happened here, what caused this. Wessel says Newmont, the operator of Red Chris Mine, will be conducting their own investigation, and he spoke a bit about why that's important.
I think fall of ground is a risk for the mining industry. It's an identified risk, and it's even one of our fatality risks in Newmont that we've got controls and measures to do. So you would have seen that in industry, and you would have certainly seen it in other mines. But that's why we've got standards and protocols that we put in place, and investigations like this actually get us to learn better so that we can prevent future.
And so the province, Newmont's going to launch their investigation. The province says they will also be launching an investigation, which is required under mining regulations in this province. They say the investigation will be made public. As for the mine itself, we're told that production has resumed at the pit mine operation. And it's important to kind of keep in mind that Newmont kind of distinguishes these two operations a little bit differently. There's the pit mine that's producing ore right now, but what these workers were working on is a kind of an expansion to this mine to extend its life cycle, basically. And that's what kind of brought them down there in the first place. And the Premier has basically highlighted this mine as one critical nation-building project he'd like to see fast-tracked. So it seems like, and right now we have not heard of any reason or any inclination to hold back on this project. So they say it's a critical project in the face of tariffs and trade uncertainty, Michelle.
Liam, thank you so much. And I look forward to more of your reporting from there near Dease Lake on Tahltan Nation territory. Thanks, Liam.
Thank you.
Liam Britten, CBC reporter, live from the Red Chris mine site. It is 12:14 now. You're with BC Today as we continue our coverage of the workers who were trapped underground at the Red Chris mine. This is on Tahltan Nation territory near Dease Lake. And this first occurred Tuesday morning. And after 60 hours being trapped underground, the three workers have been rescued now. They were rescued late last night. And for more on this, I'm joined by Erik Eberhardt, who's a professor of geological engineering at UBC and specializes in rock mechanics and rock engineering. Good afternoon, Professor. Thanks for being with us.
Good afternoon, Michelle.
What strikes you about this rescue?
Well, of course, I think from a public perspective, it's the uncertainty or not knowing, what was happening. Miners being trapped, of course, is going to be a concerning occurrence. To me, the thing that struck me was that the event occurred where it did. So that was into the roadway, into the mine. So often when we see falls of ground, so they are generally a known hazard. We normally see them around active mining or in the process of developing a tunnel, and there's safety procedures and protocols around that in terms of the active mining. The fact that this happened in a roadway of an already constructed tunnel down into where the underground mine is being developed, that sort of stands out a little bit in terms of something that has occurred, a failure that has occurred after a period of time when that section of tunnel had already been reinforced and engineered. And so, of course, the priority was getting the workers out. They did so. They did so in a reasonably, short period of time. 60 hours is a long time to be underground, but for a collapse, to be able to clear it and to get them out, I think that worked out reasonably well. And so now they'll move into the sort of the forensics of trying to understand why this happened and to understand that fully so that those lessons can be shared, not only internally in terms of that operation, but with the mining industry in general. Just, trying to, as all mining companies do, share the lessons that they learn when something which is a known risk, but very low likelihood, when it occurs, they take as many opportunities as possible to understand that.
Sure, yeah. And when it comes to the technology itself, with regard to the rescue, what can you tell us more about this drone, the scooping technology as well? Can you describe how it works?
So the technology is reasonably common now within the mining industry in terms of autonomous vehicles and remote controlled shovels and scoops, the use of drones. I think the interesting thing here is that those are the type of equipment you would have on site in an operating mine. And again, this wasn't the underground mine wasn't operating; it was still in development, so
Right.
they'd be more limited in that equipment. But the fortunate thing was that they do have an operating mine that was nearby, and they were able to bring equipment from there, is my understanding. And then that's exactly what the mining industry does. They move rock. So being able to get in there, to use the drone to investigate the geotechnical conditions, to see, is there a hazard if they clear that material? Does it create a further cave-in? But to be able to remove that material with the remote control scoop is again something where you're not putting people into harm's way. It's
Right.
equipment. They're obviously able to do a survey to see that what collapsed was localized and it wasn't a continual unraveling or failure of the material. And then they were able to bring in other safety equipment that's reinforced carriers to vehicles to bring the drillers out.
It sounds like quite a cautious, methodical process.
So these are known hazards. So, I think in terms of the regular practice of mining, they're routinely taking these type of cautions. They're looking at every opportunity to separate people from hazards by using autonomous vehicles, by using, again, remote controlled loaders and shovels, to be able to use drones to do investigation. So these are things, 20 plus years ago that would have been done by people, perhaps putting them in harm's way. Being able to use robotics, autonomous vehicles, artificial intelligence, and everything around remote investigation are just the technologies that the mining industry has embraced to improve safety. And so, again, I think they followed what they knew best in terms of safety. They were able to use the technology that they're familiar with and comfortable with, which is purpose built for these type of needs. And the workers and the people who do work in an underground environment go through extensive training, knowing that these are low likelihood events. The low likelihood doesn't mean that they're impossible,
Right.
and that's always in the back of the mind is of being cautious when something is possible, even if it's low likelihood.
And now we head into these reviews to be undertaken by the company, Newmont, as well as the provincial government. What do you think the industry can learn from this kind of situation moving forward?
So I think we have these type of incidents and other hazards that are related to geology, which are that don't occur very often. And so we know about them, but we don't know a lot about them. And so anytime we do encounter one of these, they'll do a detailed investigation just to understand what could have been known beforehand that was maybe missed. Was there something that is just couldn't be detected beforehand? And so how do we update practices to be able to deal with the unknown unknowns? So a lot of mining, especially in terms of geology, there's a lot of uncertainty. And so you sort of have your known unknowns and you manage those. And every now and then we learn about unknown unknowns. And that just adds then to the experience base of different professionals who work, on these type of problems.
And can I ask you finally, as we've heard, this part of the mine was not an operating mine. It's where they were boring into the ground to prepare for a new block cave mine operation. What should we know about that as that operation prepares to begin? It's about 3 years down the road is what we've heard.
So, the thing about block cave mining is it's our transition from large open pits. We try to, copper, there's a high demand on copper as we look forward in terms of green energy, as we look, electric cars and charging stations, there's a high demand on copper. We try to mine it because it's in low percentages in the rock in terms of using mass mining, and that's easiest on surface. But we've been mining, our large open pits for, 50, 100 years, and eventually we get to the end of the life of an open pit. That material continues at depth, and so the industry is generally looking at the transition that's facing them now and into the next, 50 years of our sources of copper in these open pits transitioning to this underground mass mining method called block caving. And it's just a method that allows you to mine large volumes of rock, which is not required when you have concentrated metals like, silver or gold, which might be quite concentrated. But when you have a material like copper, which is maybe, 1% or lower and highly distributed through the rock, you need to be able to, mine large volumes of rock to get that copper out. So we have one already in the province, the New Afton mine near Kamloops. And really globally, there's a number of these large caving operations that have been developed, usually when the open pit mine has gone as deep as it can go and they want to continue mining that copper at depth. So it's sort of the future of where the mining industry is transitioning for, in at least the copper, in the critical mineral pursuit around copper.
Okay, that's an interesting point of the conversation as well here in BC, certainly. Erik, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Erik Eberhardt is a professor of geological engineering at UBC and specializes in rock mechanics and rock engineering. It's 12:22. And as we prepare for our barbecue season open line, we're going to take your calls in our next half hour asking you what is on your barbecue this summer and what are your questions about barbecuing, your recipes, how to make things better when you put it on the grill. We'd love to hear from you. We'll take your calls in our next half hour as well. Yesterday on the show, we spoke about water safety with the Life Saving Society's BC and Yukon branch. It is National Drowning Prevention Week. And Mina writes, for years, I swam in lakes on Salt Spring Island early in the morning. I was a strong swimmer, very confident. One morning, though, out in the middle of the lake, I got a cramp all through my abdomen. I could barely move my legs and felt as though I was being tucked under. I yelled, help, help, several times. With all my strength possible, I used my arms to get closer to the shore. Lesson learned. I quit swimming in lakes after that. Monica writes from Haida Gwaii, I'm an elementary school teacher. Not all school districts and communities have swimming pools to implement swimming lessons for all. We had a pool in Masset that became expensive to maintain. It was closed and demolished a number of years ago. What would a solution to that situation be? Really good point, Monica, writing us from Haida Gwaii. That's certainly something we'll follow here on the show when it comes to pursuing more swimming lessons. We heard from the Life Saving Society that equity and access to swimming lessons is something they're pursuing when it comes to school curricula as well, trying to put that into school classrooms as part of the curriculum. So that is a really interesting question when it comes to rural and remote communities. What about access to swimming? Thanks for your emails. It's 12:24 now, and you're with BC Today. I'm Michelle Elliott. Thank you so much for being with us on this Friday afternoon. And as we head into the weekend, maybe you're getting ready to grill something, right? It's barbecue season. That may mean something different to different people. Maybe you love your burgers and hot dogs and steaks. I love hot dogs as well, but also grilled corn, zucchini. What about pizza? Even fruits. Whatever your preference, we'd love to hear from you. What is on your barbecue this summer? And what are your own burning questions for our guest, who is a barbecue master? So we'd love to hear from you. Our numbers are 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can also hit pound 690 on your cell phone. Our email is bctoday@cbc.ca. And for one lucky caller, we will have another BC Today Summer Prize Pack to give away. And that includes a BC Today picnic blanket on which to eat your barbecued food, and a water bottle as well to keep you hydrated while you're eating. My guest is Rusty Johnson of Rusty's Barbecue. Now, he has many titles that include Barbecue Master, four-time Canadian National Barbecue Champion, and 2015's World Burger Champion, as well as the Food Network's first ever Fire Masters Champion. That's a lot. Good afternoon, Rusty. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, that's quite a mouthful when you say it. I try to stay humble, but it's hard sometimes.
I'm sure. Yeah, exactly. That's a lot of I don't know, your name tag or a crown or what you have. But I mean, how did you get into competing with barbecuing?
Well, it's a really funny sport. It really kind of took off a couple of years ago, probably around 2010. The whole barbecue circuit scene got really popular. Those big shows on TV.
Right.
And I was a new father, and my first Father's Day gift was a little smoker, and I started playing around with it, and I didn't even know it was a thing. So I started trying my hand in it down in the States, in Oregon and Washington, and I was instantly winning. I guess I had a good way of cooking and a good flavor palette, and once we started winning, it kind of got addicting. And it's a really fun activity. It's kind of like camping, but you can win money at the end. So you're out all weekend with your friends, and you're having your beers, and you're turning in meat. It's serious, but yeah, it can take a life of its own. And once you start getting good and you start getting onto the world stage and stuff, it gets quite serious, and there's a lot of money, a lot of time spent. Yeah, it's a fun hobby.
Well, yeah, I think it's become more than a hobby for you. But what was it that got you those first wins? What did you barbecue? Do you remember?
Well, really, there's like a lot of different circuits, like even like the PGA of golf, like there's different rules, like there's different circuits, and there's different flavor things that they're looking for. But most of us, we all compete in something you see called KCBS, and it's Kansas City Barbecue Society, and you're really just cooking briskets and ribs and chicken and pork butts and stuff like that. Traditional Southern barbecue is where it goes. But when you have any type of cooking competition and so many good chefs in one area, you tend to have a lot of various side categories that we get involved into. And sometimes burgers are there, and steaks, and different vegetable dishes, or different wine pairing dishes. And once you start to get into it, you discover there's this whole culture of competitive cooking and all kinds of different things. So you can get into, like I said, like wine pairings, different types of black box dishes and things that you see on Chopped, and those things exist out there. You just got to go look for them. There's a lot of stuff and a lot of people that get involved.
It is very much a sport. I know exactly what you mean, because I like to watch those shows too, those barbecue competition shows. So what's it like at home? Do people just expect you to be like next level competition level barbecuing, or can you just throw something on the grill for your family?
Well, I'll tell you what I had for lunch today. It was a couple quick chicken strips from a box and a couple gummy bears. that was actually what I had. So not every meal is going to be glamorous, but there is a bit of a curse, and I'm not joking. Like, there's always one of your friends that has this great plan, and that plan is like, we're going to have this party, we're all going to hang out, you're going to cook for everybody. You're like, oh, great, this is exactly what I want to do this weekend. So, but the other problem with it is when you do have that expectation, you do go to someone's house, you do end up accidentally taking over any barbecuing that is happening at that point, because you can see the things that are happening, and you want it to be successful, so you do tend to jump in a little bit. So yeah, it's hard. And then actually, this is a terrible story, but sometimes you do get friends that come along, and they don't invite you for dinner. They'll invite you after for drinks, because I guess it gets a little bit I guess you say intimidating when your friend is out there competing on the world stage of cooking, and then you get invited over for dinner. So it's actually a bit of a curse in that aspect too.
I bet. Yeah, exactly. I'm going to pull out some frozen chicken strips for you now. That's where I'm at. So thanks so much for being with us. My guest is Rusty Johnson of Rusty's Barbecue, a champion on so many levels, on so many fronts when it comes to barbecuing. So he's here to take your calls, your questions if you have them, and you can share with us too what you're putting on your grill this summer. Love to hear from you. We're going to go to your calls and go back to Rusty Johnson for our next half hour. That all comes your way after the CBC News Update.
Good afternoon. There is relief and joy after 3 drillers were freed from a mine in northern BC late last night after being trapped for several days. According to the mining company Newmont, the first thing the workers said once they were rescued is that they were able to catch up on some sleep. A spokesperson says that while that indicates they're in good spirits, they take what happened seriously and will be providing them with any needed counseling. The mayor of Maple Ridge is thanking first responders as the investigation continues into the deaths of 3 people. In a statement, Dan Rumi says it's important that people support one another at this time. On Wednesday night, Mounties were called to 239th Street. The Integrated Homicide Investigation Team says the case appears to be a targeted and isolated incident involving a dispute between neighbors. And a small brush fire near several businesses in Kamloops was quickly knocked down late last night. Crews were called to Ken Cartwright Park around 10 p.m. Contained the flames to grass and sage, so no critical infrastructure was damaged. Investigators say it was likely human-caused. And now the BC forecast. On the north coast, a mix of sun and cloud this afternoon with a high of 16 degrees. Highs around 14 with a chance of thunderstorms in the Peace. In the central interior, including Prince George, a mix of sun and cloud. Risk of thunder, high of 20. Highs up to 29 with a chance of showers in the Kootenays. In the southern interior, mainly cloudy with some wind gusts, high of 26. And for the south coast, a mix of sun and cloud, highs around 20 degrees. That is your CBC News from Vancouver.
Thanks, Amelia.
Thanks, Michelle.
You lived in Australia for a while, didn't you?
Yes, and there's a huge barbecue culture there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, where did the word Barbie come from?
Yeah.
When you talk about barbecues, so any favorites for you?
Look, I was thinking about that while Rusty was talking. I was thinking of my brother-in-law who loved to smoke chicken on the barbecue, and I was always a bit about that. I had, some questions because sometimes the meat would be a little bit pink still, and it wasn't hot on
Not
that.
meant to be like that. Yeah,
I don't know.
Exactly. But everybody else enjoyed it?
Yeah.
Oh, dear. Okay. I don't know. I will ask Rusty about that. But yeah, barbecue, certainly a huge part of the culture.
For sure.
Thank you, Amelia.
Thanks, Michelle.
Amelia John in the CBC Vancouver newsroom, and lots more coming your way here on CBC from the newsroom, and as well as on your afternoon shows. And for our listeners to CBC Radio 1 in Metro Vancouver, here's what's coming up on the Coast.
Hi, Michelle. It is Amy filling in for Gloria for one last day. Coming up on our show after yesterday's Hockey Canada verdict, we've seen a real wave of reaction, and it's opened up some really honest and much needed conversations amongst fans of the game and victims of sexual assault, just about consent and hockey culture. So we're going to speak to an expert about that. We're also going to talk to just absolute legend of broadcasting, Shushma Dutt. She has been a pioneer for South Asian women in broadcasting for nearly 50 years, and she's going to be moving on from the station she founded, Spice Radio. So we'll have a conversation with her. On the Coast, on the air, starting at 3 o'clock.
It's 12:34. You're with BC Today. I'm Michelle Elliott, and we are taking your calls on barbecuing. Yeah, that's right. It's barbecue season. So what is on your barbecue this summer, and what are your burning questions for our guest, barbecue master Rusty Johnson, who is a 4-time Canadian national barbecue champion and 2015's World Burger champion, as well as the Food Network's first ever Fire Masters champion. Rusty, I know we have a lot of calls coming in. I do want to ask you, I was speaking with my colleague Amelia John about living in Australia, where of course barbecue's a huge thing.
And chicken.
And
I
chicken.
almost wanted to interject. I just wanted to get in there. I was
Yeah, what are
excited.
your thoughts? Smoking chicken specifically.
Oh, man, this is the one that I see people do quite a bit. Actually, make a lot of mistakes with. First of all, we'll just comment on the pink part. When it
Chicken
comes
that's
to
still
the pink
pink,
part,
yeah.
yeah, but it's not even so much that it's pink. Whenever you smoke chicken, because it's such a delicate white meat, and when you do smoke it, I do get complaints from people go, it's raw. I'm like, I can't not cook the outside because it was the outside that's pink. It's important to understand what the pink when you smoke anything. It's just like curing a ham. What is it in ham that you're doing? You're adding nitrates to meat. It reacts with the myoglobin in the meat. It becomes pink. It's a chemical reaction. So the same thing extremely happens in chicken, where when you smoke chicken, it goes into that pink because you're almost curing it like a ham. You're adding nitrates to the meat, and that's what happens. The biggest, though, back to the cooking of chicken and why some people don't love to smoke chicken properly all the time, is they tend to cook it at too low of a temperature. When you cook it too low, you're not getting the fat to render properly in the skin. The skin's not crisping up. It becomes gummy and rubbery.
Right.
The skin tends to contract. So the texture in your mouth isn't very pleasant. Let's put it that way. It's kind of a rubbery feel. What you do, especially with chicken, because it's such a delicate meat and it takes on so much flavor, that you don't want to smoke it too low and slow. You see those pit masters, and they cook in their briskets for 17 days straight, or 12, 14 hours. You want that heavy, lower smoke for flavor because it can take it. Chicken's thin and delicate, so you want to cook it at a higher temperature with a cleaner burning wood. So what happens is you're going to get that higher heat. It's going to render the fats in the skin. The skin's going to crisp, but you're not going to have that heavy, bitter flavor to the meat. You're going to have just a little kiss of flame grilled goodness in there. That's how I always recommend it. So if you're smoking chicken, definitely get it to 275 to 300, but still add the wood, and it's going to be delightful, let me tell you.
Oh my goodness, that sounds great. So think of it in a different way then from when you're smoking a brisket. Okay, opposite. We're taking your calls too. Let us know, what are you barbecuing this summer? What are your questions for Rusty? And we do have a BC Today summer prize pack to give away for one caller. And it's 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733, or just hit pound 690 on your cell phone. Our email address is bctoday@cbc.ca. I want to put this comment out from TikTok because we are on TikTok Live as well. And Casey writes, I had someone from Nigeria who made me a sauce for sockeye salmon. And man, I wish I could find that sauce. So if you know, I don't know if this is a traditional recipe in Nigeria. If someone knows of this recipe, perhaps Casey, you can help Casey out. Thanks for that on TikTok Live. Let's go to our callers now. Anne-Marie is on the line from Kamloops. Hi, Anne-Marie. What's your favorite thing to put on the grill?
Hi. This time of year, we get zucchini in our garden.
Sure.
And we're not the only ones, I know that. Yeah. And we like to take the smaller ones, not the big ones we're going to grind up for baking, but take the smaller ones and cut them into 1/4 to 1/2 slices. Place them on a pan, put about a teaspoon of salsa on top of each slice, and top it with mozzarella cheese, and then barbecue that. And it's such a lovely hors d'oeuvre.
Oh my gosh, so you barbecue it with the toppings already?
Yeah, exactly.
And now you mentioned you like to use a smaller zucchini for that, and what do you do with the larger ones?
Oh, I grind them up, and I'm actually doing that right now, making some zucchini carrot muffins.
Come on. Yes. My colleague I saw was walking around with a large zucchini from her garden just a little while ago, and it was like a prize.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You can do so much with it. Yeah.
And
it's a great time of year.
I love that. I'm going to try that because I love a grilled zucchini. Thank you very much.
You're so welcome.
That's Anne-Marie in Kamloops. Okay, so Rusty, yes, so like little canapes.
Yes, it sounds good. The only thing I always try to do when you are cooking with zucchini is remember how much moisture is in zucchini. Yeah. They're like, it's literally a green tube of water. Like those things can hold a lot of moisture in them. So if you can get a really, really high heat blast on them right off the bat, you're going to contain the moisture and not have that texture on the outside of being a little bit too soft. You want a little bit of a texture crunch on the outside if you can, because texture always does have a really big part to play in anything you eat.
That's so true. And that grilled look, just having that slightly scorched, burnt outside is so nice. It's my favorite part.
You eat with your eyes first. That's what you got to do.
That's right. And maybe your ears, because just listening to all of this is making me hungry. Kirsten is our next caller now in Victoria. Hi, Kirsten. What are you putting on your barbecue this summer?
Well, I'm actually not putting anything on my barbecue because I can't have one due to strata laws.
Uh-huh.
That being said, I actually wanted to call and ask Rusty what he uses to clean his grills to keep them safe because of the concern with wire brushes their guts due to those.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask what he does to keep his grills clean and safe.
Great question. Yeah.
That is a great question. And I know I've heard the same thing. My wife is a medical expert at the hospital in her day job. And yes, we hear the horror stories all the time. We do not use a wire brush at the Johnson residence. We use a couple different solutions. I do have one that I did pick up from a contest, which has an internal sponge and it has a little bit of moisture with a straight grate metal. I don't know how to explain it. It's just like a metal plate, which you can do some scratching across with some grooves to go across. Certain brands like Napoleon make a really good one that I've seen on the market in order to get the grates cleaned and get around those edges and get between the grates. Another really good one too is wood paddles. A lot of people are moving to the wood paddle. The good thing about when you use one of those wood paddles that you can scratch your surface is over time, over the first couple grills, because of the heat on the wood, it actually starts to harden it, but it creates grooves that match your grill. So it almost becomes a custom grate scratcher for your grill to clean off perfectly. So that's the one I use, and I've been gifted a couple over the years. So I use a wood paddle. They're available in any barbecue store you see now. And like I said, they eventually become customized to your grill as you use it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like your lazy boy chair. It's after use, it kind of just takes on the shape. Kirsten, thank you very much for that. And very good question. In fact, Sandy wrote us an email with that exact same question. So that's a very useful piece of information. Thank you very much for your question. And Chris is next now in Victoria. Hi, Chris. You want to talk about something you barbecue?
Yeah, one of my very favorite things to barbecue at this time of year is a beer can chicken because it is absolutely foolproof and it always turns out incredibly well. And normally there's some leftovers afterwards as well. So that's a pretty easy one. The only challenge around that is to make sure you don't run out of propane partway through.
Aha, yes. And did you have a question as well?
Yeah, I had a question for Rusty. I would love to know what is your kind of go-to favorite thing to cook on the barbecue that's not super tricky, that anyone could kind of do. And I want to ask you to give just a quick breakdown of how you do it and kind of timelines and temperatures and that kind of thing.
Perfect.
What's funny? You just said something really interesting. You're talking about whole roast chickens on the barbecue. One of my favorite things to make at home, and it's light and healthy and very quick to do, but can take on a lot of flavors, is simple roast chickens, whole chickens, not pieces, whole chickens. And I like my favorite way to do it is doing it spatchcock style, which means you cut the backbone out and you let the chicken flatten itself out. You cook it at about, again, back to 275 degrees until you get the right temperatures. The thing that really makes chicken magical when you do it on a barbecue for the family, it's a go-to thing too, because like you can get a chicken for anywhere $15-20, feeds my whole family of 4, is to really make sure you start to nail temperature. The biggest misconception in a lot of cookings is all these flavors and tricks and all these things that you need to do. But really what you have to understand is the basic seasonings with a perfectly cooked piece of meat is far superior than a terribly cooked piece of meat with all the greatest sauces and flavors in the world. So what we try to do too is heavily salted chickens right off the bat. Whenever I roast a chicken too, I do try to limit the amount of flavors that I add at the beginning. And I like to try to add different compound oils as the cooks go on throughout the cook. But simple spatchcock chickens. And what I was going to say about this is make sure the biggest misconception I see with chicken and when they do it wrong, and the biggest tip I can give is the finishing temperature of chicken is a lot higher than what most people actually end up cooking their chicken to. You want to start to get those chicken thighs and that chicken drumstick to literally 195 degrees internal. A lot of people might say, hey, man, Russ, you're overcooking that bad boy. I'm like, no. What happens if you look at a pork shoulder or you look at a brisket or something like it's a big cut of meat that you're used to cooking, they cook those things forever and they get way to these high temperatures. You want, and this is going to sound a little bit more of a you want the connective tissues and the fats to break down in the meat properly. So what happens with chicken, when you start to go up to a certain temperature in the legs and the dark meat, the white meat, it applies a little different. We start to cook up and higher in the dark meats. It'll get tougher and tougher at about 165, 170. But once you get to 180, it actually starts to tenderize. And then the fats melt. And then the chicken tastes way more rich because you're getting everything that's melted into the meat, not just sit there in that might be lumpy fats or something within the fattier cuts of meat. So literally melting your chicken without even adding a lot of flavor will take it over the top. And that even applies to the beer can chicken. The thing is you have to be careful of overcooking your breasts at that point. I do only take the chicken breast to 160. If you're lucky, it all comes up the same temperature. Sometimes it doesn't. Luckily with beer can, the legs are at the bottom. So you're going to have that heat coming up from the bottom started. So you might be able to achieve that. Don't be ever afraid to cut the legs off when they're at the right temperature, and don't sacrifice the breasts, or vice versa. If your chicken breasts are done early, don't feel bad about cutting it into different pieces. It's okay. I do it all the time. You're not going to get it perfectly, but don't sacrifice one cut of meat for another. That is super important. So when you're cooking a roast chicken, the most important thing is add a lot of salt, more than you think, because it's going to render and it's going to melt in. Cook your chicken legs way past 190 degrees so that they melt. Make sure you pull your chicken breasts at 160, and you will notice a huge difference in what your meat tastes like and the tenderness when you bite into it. Okay, now I'm hungry.
Yeah,
that
I know.
Was a great question.
I've been hungry. That was so great. I wouldn't have thought that, but that makes a lot of sense, especially when you talk about the different cuts, because some have more fat than the others, for sure. Great question, and I think people were probably furiously taking notes as you were talking about that. Rusty, let's go to our callers once again. Cody in Trail, hello, welcome back. What's your burning question for Rusty?
Good afternoon, Michelle. Good afternoon, Rusty. I really love your necklace, Michelle, and you look good in any outfit that they put you on, that they put you in every day. I don't know who your stylist is, but you look good in any outfit. And in previous response, while I was on hold, I was formulating answers to your previous two callers' questions, Kristen in Victoria and Chris also. For Chris, I think if he's doing the beer can chicken, he might want to inject it with some flavor. Because, like, he could inject it with a marinade or like a mesquite marinade or whatever before he cooks it. And for Kristen, with the grill question, like what she was suggesting about cleaning, you probably before you start up your grill, like before you preheat it, or before you start like preheating, you want to use some sort of soap, like just soap or like maybe vinegar solution on a rag, and you just wipe the grill before you start.
Okay. Would you agree with that? What do you think, Rusty?
There's a lot of things I should do. We'll go to the cleaning of the soap.
Yeah.
I am not the best grill cleaner. I can cook on it. I'm more of a, let's just turn this thing off and let the fire take care of this. Kind of a guy.
It'll burn off.
I was also wondering too, if you notice my good looks today too. I don't know if the video is coming through, so how I was dressed today. But when it comes to cleaning the grill, getting in there soap and water from time to time is good. I just like I said though, I use mine so often that I tend to scratch it off quite a bit and then burn it off myself.
Yeah. There's something like, I think with woks as well, right? Things kind of burn off when you use that high heat.
Yeah.
Devo is our next caller in Vancouver. Hi, Devo.
Oh, hi there, Michelle. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
Well, so I don't really have a question for Rusty, but I do have a comment of what we've been doing for the last couple of summers is we've been having our barbecue on Fridays in different parks around the lower mainland.
Oh, how nice.
Mostly fish and barbecuing fish. And one thing I will say that I discovered this year is I did invest in a small fish basket, which works really well. And the other thing is a grill plate. And the grill plate that I find is really good, especially because it's grill on the one side, flat on the other. So there's different things you can do. So, for example, a couple of weeks ago, we did prawns in an ouzo cream sauce and stir-fried the prawns on the flat side of the grill and then had the sauce cooking on the side and then mixed it all together.
Oh, my goodness. I can just see Rusty nodding right now.
Yeah. You know, it's
As
funny.
said,
I thought someone was going to ask this question too all day, and it's like the biggest disaster that I see quite regularly with people grilling, especially if people use my grill, is fish because it's so
Yeah.
sticky. It wants to stick to the grill, and it's especially something like salmon that's so delicate. Flipping it, you want to get those good grill marks, and I can do it. But there's one of those things that's like the people that try to smoke cheese. They always have a lot of videos where they melted all the cheese and it's all gone to through the grates. Like it's not an easy thing to nail every single time. And using proper mats, lowering the size of your grates, having something that actually is even pliable that you can maneuver yourself, because some of those grill mats are flexible, you can flip them. And having the baskets is such a good idea when it comes to fish. I do always add a good layer of olive oil on top too when I do grill fish or any seafood as well, just to make sure. And olive oil is okay if you're not going super high heat, like super high heat searing like a steak, just to make sure things don't stick, because it can get nasty, and that fish smell can linger if it's stuck to the grates. And if you're cleaning it like I was, as I'm all half the conversation we have, it can linger in the cooking chamber for a while, and for some people it's not always the best. So yes, I would totally agree with you. Great tips on having seafood in certain grill grates and stuff. Perfect idea.
Yeah.
And you're go ahead, Devo. Go ahead.
Yeah, and the other thing, as I mentioned, is that having a portable barbecue. I mean, I have a regular barbecue at home, but having a portable barbecue and doing this thing that we do, enjoying a barbecue in different parks. We get to see different parks throughout the Lower Mainland. We've gone everywhere from Crippen Park in Bowen Island all the way out to the far end of Burnaby.
I was going to say, are you making friends everywhere you go?
Well, there's a lot of people who are wondering how much I charge.
Exactly. There's a little side hustle. I don't know. Possibility. Devo, thank you very much. I know when I walk around,
welcome.
Take care. When I walk around the neighborhood and I smell the barbecue, I'm thinking, I think I need to make some new friends. I don't know.
Well, can I add one more thing to that last caller too? Just if you guys are all having different, if you're on the portables kick and you're having different flat tops and different grills out there, there's a lot of different companies that are making tiny portable pellet smokers too that are liftable, and I've got one myself, and we bring those to the beach too. So if you want to do something else too, put some salmon on there, a little bit of maple and salt and pepper. Ooh, leash Nikes, that's gonna be really good. So look for some of those ones on the market. Like I know like Green Mountain Grills and Trigger make them, little portable smokers that you can bring too.
You know, I'm glad you brought that up. We actually had an email from Alex, who lives in a condo where barbecuing is allowed on the balcony. So Alex was looking for a barbecue recommendation for a small outdoor space. So would that be kind of along those lines?
Yes, that would be exactly it. And the biggest thing when it comes to having small, tight areas and having a lot of flavors and smoke coming out of your yard is to make good barbecue and then share it with your neighbors, and they tend to complain less. That's what I used to have to do in the townhouse I lived in before. As long as you've got extra ribs, there's no complaints to spread.
Make enough for the rest of us. 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. And you can hit pound 690 on your cell phone. Our email, bctoday@cbc.ca. And Mira wrote us about locally made food to barbecue at the farmers markets and Pitt this summer. I bought a bottle of this incredible balsamic glaze called Sweet Habanero, made with grown habanero peppers, and it is so delicious. Locally made in BC. Fantastic. Thank you for that recommendation, Mira. And let's go back to our callers now. Savannah is on the line from Victoria with another question. Hi, Savannah.
Hi.
Welcome.
Hello?
Thanks for calling in. Yeah. What's your question for Rusty?
My husband really likes the flat top. I know the brand name is Blackstone grill tops for like the smash burgers and stuff. I was just wondering if you had any thoughts on those or ideas or other recipes. We're thinking about swapping our barbecue for just one of those.
Well, I got some opinions for you on that one. Why would you ever get rid of a barbecue? Now you can have two barbecues. You know, like whoever ever said like I got too much barbecue space. You know, that would be my opinion, because it's like two different tools for two different things, right? Mm-hmm. A flat top is amazing. You can do some really cool stuff on it, which I'll get into. But it doesn't always do the same job as what you're going to see from a gas grill or any type of wood fire grill or charcoal. They're like two different tools for two different things, like different golf clubs in the golf bag. So Unfortunately, you don't want to get to my level where you have 24 barbecues and you've got like, they're all over the place and you have to rent storage space to keep them all. But to me, I would always say go with both because we use both. We have a Blackstone here. We have gas grills. We have wood-fired grills in our backyard. Ours are... when it comes to the Blackstone, like really like the two biggest things that you're going to find here that are so good on there, obviously smash burgers. I'll take a detour here and go with smash burgers though. As you're going to cook smash burgers, make sure you have a good apron and some clearance for some grease splatter. My wife's probably giggling right now because she's saying, yes, Rusty, you splash your grease everywhere whenever you use it and it drives me nuts. So have some clear open space when using a Blackstone. You can make some really cool smash burgers with it, fajitas, like stuff like that, like making carne asada on there. Oh my gosh. It is the greatest thing in the world when you're on there, getting all those flavors to melt. What's really nice about a Blackstone is unlike a grill, which allows the meat to drip and all the flavors to drip out of the meat and onto a flame, which smokes it and gives it that flavor. Thing like Blackstone keeps all those flavors within and it lets it sit within its own flavors. It doesn't get as hard of a sear on the things, but you're going to retain a lot more of the flavors you're cooking with. So like I said, doing things like tacos, and like smash burgers and stuff are great. But when it comes to big things like chicken or something like a steak, you're going to probably want to still go back to, and I've made good steaks on Blackstones, but you're going to probably still want to go back to your gas grill. I think you would miss it after that point. So anything, vegetables, if you really want to get a hard sear on something, you're going to want to be on the grill because you want that moisture to get away from it because you're never going to form as hard of a crust when you're still continually steaming.
Okay. So pitch made to keep both of them, Savannah. Yes. Maybe not 24, but 2. Savannah, thank you very much. So there you go. There's the answer for you. Rusty, what a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you for your words of wisdom. I think people have really learned a lot this afternoon.
Thank you very much. And it was a pleasure to be on here.
Rusty Johnson of Rusty's Barbecue, 4-time Canadian National Barbecue Champion, 2015's World Burger Champion, and also Food Network Fire Master Champion. And our winner is Devo from Vancouver. You're going to have to bring us a fish, though. Thanks, Devo. Thanks for listening.